Well, hi everyone. Welcome back. And if you don't know me, I'm Wynn Harwood. I'm the mother of 3 grown children, and for more than 30 years, I've really enjoyed supporting busy parents like yourself. And so today I want to talk about feelings. Don't run away, please. But first, I want you to imagine being in this scene, okay? So the scene is that you're coming home from work, and your mind is really preoccupied. You know, you have a lot on your mind, and you're driving along, and all of a sudden, the car in front of you stops, and you run right into the car in front of you. And it turns out that the light had turned red, but you were distracted, so you didn't see that. And so there is some damage to your car, but most of the damage is to the other car, and it has been determined that it is your fault. You know, how would that feel, right? So now you come home, and you come in the door, and there's your partner. So, you know, you're really upset, and you start to tell him about, you know, how you had a fender bender, and it was your fault. And, you know, it seems there's more damage to the other car than to yours, and you're feeling really bad, and your partner says, "You did what? We were going away this weekend, now you're grounded." Like, how would that feel? How would that feel? So I think it's so important to talk, like, and what would you need, right? What would you need? You'd need empathy and care, right? Someone who says, you know, something like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened. That really sucks," or something like that. Something kind and considerate and empathic, showing that they heard how you're feeling and that they witnessed your feeling, that you feel like you've been seen and heard. That's what you need, right? So, you know, in I think it was 1994, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 1994 that this book was written. I'm going to check here just to make sure I have it right. You know, it's not there. Okay, yeah, 1994. And this book was written, I'll make sure you can see it, and it is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goldman. And, you know, when I picked up this book, I was like, what is that? Emotional intelligence. You know, I mean, I'd never heard of it before. And, you know, by the way, I'm attending a child psychology conference this weekend, and one of the keynote speakers, that's her topic. She's going to be talking about emotional intelligence. And, you know, the subtitle of this book is Why Emotional Intelligence, which we call the EQ for short, can matter more than IQ. And it's pretty clear now that it does matter more than IQ. You know, I listened to a teacher not long ago, primary school teacher, and she said, "I just found out that my son is gifted and has ADHD." And she said, the thing that upset me the most was not the ADHD, it was that he was gifted. And usually gifted people are very sensitive. They're very bright and they're very sensitive, and they definitely need help to develop an emotional IQ. You're not born with an emotional IQ. But it needs to be fostered in childhood. And then gifted children can cope because they can cope with their sensitivity. Because emotional intelligence, briefly, is about knowing how you feel, being able to label how you're feeling, being able to express your feelings so that other people know how you're feeling, being able to recognize other people's feelings, and being able to manage your own feelings and to support others who are and their feelings. That's basically what it is, right? But, you know, unfortunately, we didn't learn too much about feelings. And so I'm just going to draw your attention to this diagram, try to make it a little bit clearer here. So I just need to find my Apple pen here. So here we are, you know, we are thinking, feeling, let me just come here for a minute. I'll put myself up here too. So there we are. And I'll add this one. So I'm on 2. How's that? Okay, so here we are. We're thinking, feeling, behaving people, right? And yet, you know, when I was growing up, and for a lot of us when we were growing up, our parents talked about what we were thinking and what we should be thinking, and our behavior, setting limits on our behaviors, teaching us what is acceptable behavior. So it was all like this. It was like this: think, think and do, think and do, think and do, think and do. But the question is, when do we ever learn about feelings? Most of us didn't learn about anything about feelings at home when we were young, or in school. Like if you think of math, it's all thinking, and doing. And if you think of languages, it's thinking and doing. You think of reading, like science, it's all thinking and doing. But did you ever take a course on feelings? So this was huge, and this was the beginning of my research in 1994. And I've been researching it ever since because it's so important, right? And so let me go over here. So when you look at our feelings, we could probably put them in all these 4 words: sad, mad, glad, scared. In English, of course, this makes it easier because, these 3 rhyme: sad, mad, and glad, and then you just have to remember scared. It's not so true in other languages. But anyway, you can also add words like frustrated. A lot of parents have added that when they've studied with me. And because, that's a really strong feeling and it may not be covered here. Or you can just, for the beginning, just talk about these, because we want to help children to label their feelings. We need to help them with their feelings, and we also need to label our own and learn how to manage our feelings, right? Because, for example, anger can be really, really troublesome when we're parenting, and we can get really upset when our children, don't meet our expectations, or if our needs are not met. We're feeling really tired, and a child does something that we don't like, or the 2 kids start fighting, and then if we start yelling, for example, this is really, really harmful to children. So children don't always, hear what we say, but children always pick up the feelings, okay? And they can handle our sadness. Now, of course, they can handle us feeling happy and scared. They can handle our mad, because they have a very basic need for a calm, engaged parent. And, they have a need to feel safe. And when we feel angry and we don't know what to do with our anger and we lash out, then they become really scared and they don't feel safe. So, for example, when we yell at our children, they do learn something, though. What they learn is that we don't have self-control, so we can't be trusted because we could fly off the handle at any time and then they're unsafe. They learn that, we don't know how to manage our feelings. I mentioned that. They learn that we are power is really important, because when you're powerful, you can yell at other people and boss them around, and you can control other people. So, this is how we get bullies, right? By accident, I became an expert in bullying, just by demand, And what we know about bullying is that all acts of aggression are not bullying. Bullying only happens when there is a discrepancy of power. So, for example, you have one kid who's bigger than another kid, or you have a group of kids picking on one kid, or you have the bully is picking on someone who has special needs. In any case, it matters that the bully has more power than the victim. And this is the piece that I taught a lot of people when I spoke in schools and when I went around speaking to large groups before COVID, and that it is that most children were bullied at home because we have a lot of power as parents. And if we don't know how to calm ourselves down, and we all do lose it sometimes, I need to say, I think, just because we're human, and we need to forgive ourselves, and we need to apologize to our children when that happens. But when it does happen, the risk is that we're going to use our power to control our child, who is so much smaller. And I often think, if we were held accountable for every time we yelled at our children, then we might stop. But we're not held accountable. Nothing happens to us. We get away with it. nothing. It all happens to us. And so, that's the first experience of a child being bullied, and being bullied by someone who's out of control, has no self-control, who can't regulate themselves. So I think anger is a big problem in parenting. And we need to learn to recognize our anger, and it becomes biological too. And I'm going to talk more about feelings in other videos. But for now, let me say that it's biological, so that once you get triggered, unless you know what to do to calm yourself down, you can lose control, and really it's harmful for children because they don't feel safe. And they also can be the victims of our anger. So when we think about feelings, know this, that feelings have no morality. There is no such thing as a bad feeling. Anger is not bad. But what we do when we feel angry, that can be a moral act, right? The worst case scenario is if somebody's really angry and they really hurt another person, they, especially out in public, and especially if it's like, if someone sees it, then the person who is hurting, who's, lashing out, can be held accountable, could even be charged with violence in some cases. And, none of us want to be violent, but if we don't know how to manage our anger and control our anger, then we're at risk. And so just briefly, I'll say that, one of the best ways to control our anger is to deep breathe, because when you get really upset, you shallow breathe, right? You shallow breathe. But when we get really angry, all the oxygen goes to our the part of our brain called the amygdala, which is the part that gets triggered, and we feel like we're like freezing or fighting or fleeing. And when it comes to children, unfortunately, because we have more power over them, we don't usually flee and we don't usually freeze. We usually let them have it, unless we know how to calm ourselves down. So I'd like to know in the comments, like, what do you do to calm yourself down? And also in the comments, you could add, let me know if you want me to talk more about this, because I know a lot about it, and I'd really be happy to do that. And so for now, I want to say, be good to yourself. If you feel like pay attention to how you're feeling. If, really work towards the goal of whenever you're with your children, you will be calm and engaged with them, because they really need that. And if you're not calm, do something to calm down. One of the things I used to do when my 3 children were young was I would run to the mirror, and I looked so horrible. Like, really, I looked like a witch or a monster or something. And I didn't want my kids to remember me like that. And so that would help me calm down, and I would deep breathe, because that is very, very helpful. But you know what? That when you deep breathe, lots of times anger turns into excitement. It's the same feeling, really, except one oxygen is going to your brain and the other one it is not. When you're angry, you're shallow breathing. So until next time, I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a good time with your children, because this is the time of their life and it goes really, really fast. Until next time.